Number 7, I want to talk about accessibility and physical environment. This part is really not the fault of mainstream schools, but they could do better. They can renovate. Mainstream schools can renovate if they want to, because the physical structure of mainstream schools may not, or they're really not always accessible to students with disabilities. If a student is having a wheelchair, certain schools they cannot attend because there's no elevators, and the schools cannot really put elevator. They can't, even if they want to. Elevator is not an option. So that's out of it. So that student with the wheelchair cannot go into that school. Or the bathrooms. Some bathroom stalls is not wheelchair accessible, or they don't have enough, like a bar handle, things like that. So a student with disability, physical disability, cannot really function in that structure, building structure. So that's not really the mainstream school's fault, because some of the schools are really old schools and they can't really do much about it. But the new schools that mainstream schools are building, right, they have a lot of these amenities in it. In developed countries, I'm not sure about developing countries if this is the case all the time, but definitely specialized schools are designed with accessibility in mind. That's even the water fountain has different levels. Nowadays, I've seen mainstream schools having that accessible water fountain, which I feel is great, right? But specialized schools, hands down, are designed with accessibility in mind. And that's where I feel the environment are different, okay? And I see that definitely so. And the last part I want to talk about is community and culture attitudes. The attitude from the community and the culture that you come from, right, plays a big role in attitudes of the individuals within that area. Because attitudes towards disability can influence integration, right? And students with disability can be affected going to certain schools because of the attitude from the individuals in that school setting, right? Some school setting, the teachers are just like, this is not the place for this child. Nope, this is not the place for this child. But that's a community attitude right there. Oh, this school is not equipped for that child. This is not the place for this child. This is not the place for this child. That's a community attitude. That's a school culture attitude, right? Instead of you saying, this is not the school for this child, this is not the setting for this child, why don't we try to find out what can we do to make this setting accessible? How can we make this community accessible for this child? We need to change our attitude as teachers, as administration, as parents. Stop saying this is not the space for this child. Instead, you should be saying, what can we do in this environment to actually have this child come here? It's not, oh, this child must go to that school over there. This child must go to that school. But this school is not for this child. What are you saying? What are you saying? Like, these things get me pissed off. I mean, I'm sorry. When I hear a teacher say, or a parent say, or administration say, this is not the place for this child. It's true. It's not, because you guys have not put the necessary things in place for this child to be in this school. And even if this place is not, for this child? Why did you accept the child in the first place? If you knew this is not the place, because you don't want to have that stigma on you saying that you don't accept children with disabilities. So you end up accepting children with disabilities in the notion that you are inclusive. But 6 months into the school system, you like, this is not the place for this child. What? Where was your assessment in the beginning? Why didn't you do your proper assessment in the beginning before you had that child in that school? So that you, as a school, can do the necessary adjustments, accommodations, modifications, so the child can have a productive school year. But you did not do that. And you leave a teacher to struggle with that child, and that child is having a very unsuccessful school year because we did not do our part because of our attitudes. So community attitude, culture attitude can really influence the integration of students with disabilities into the mainstream schools. In some countries, as I said, there's a lack of awareness or acceptance, leading to that resistance. I'm saying resistance because it is a resistance against inclusive education practices. Right? So it's so hard to hear when some countries, I'm not going to mention names, create an environment, a culture, attitude that create that resistance against inclusive education practices. That's how I feel. So that's my 8 factor that I have noticed over the years that has created disconnect between mainstream schools and specialized schools for students with disabilities. I'm not even talking about one type of disability. I'm just talking about disabilities in general. If it applies, you agree, fine, great. I'm so happy that you have taken the time to listen to me in this impromptu, because I feel like this is a conversation that needs to be happening between mainstream schools and specialized schools. And how can we make sure that there's no disconnect between the two? So parent doesn't have to make that concrete decision that my child doesn't belong in mainstream schools, they belong in specialized schools. Why can't we have a school system where there's no mainstream schools, no specialized schools, but the school itself is integrated so that all that is in the specialized school can be found in the mainstream schools, right? Anyway, that's my take on it. Thank you. Have a blessed afternoon, blessed day. If you have any comments, please comment below. If you have any questions, please ask questions below. I like reading your comments. I like reading your point of view. Some of you are so shy, you end up just emailing me about your concern. That's okay too, because when I have a conversation with someone and I feel it's something I can bring back to the group, I will bring it back to the group so we can have a broader understanding of the question, right? So have a blessed day. Be safe. And I will see you another time in Impromptu with Dr. C. Bye.